here we are. Let's just get started now. It's 36. So let's just first see how we left our game yesterday. So let me just use the play button and see. We have our player movement and our what do we say? Our action of our player that on clicking space will be generating a new food flight. So let me just get back. So we left like this. So now what we need to do is we need our animals to come towards us and we need them to spawn at random locations and themselves should be random. So let me just show you what we need in our game. So let me go to this particular game and let me show you how it have to be after this session. So let me just click play and see. I may be using different animals, but the overall theme is same. So this is the thing we need random animals to be coming from random positions and now our when our cookie or when our food hits our animal there nothing will happen as of now. So let me close this. As of now nothing happens. We need to detect the collision also. So let's just in the third lesson we are more focused on generating random animals from random positions. So to do that we need something called a spawn manager. Spawning a game object also means is also same as instantiating. So to manage the spawn, uh, we are creating the spawn manager, and to associate to give some behavior to it, we'll be creating a new script called spawn manager. So I have created this script, and let me add the script to this spawn manager game object, and this is an empty game object as of now. So let me say this and get back to my Unity, sorry, Visual Studio to write some code here. So let's first see what we are going to do. So this spawn manager, with this spawn manager, we need to get the behavior that these animals, we have three animals in our game, right? In our scene as of now, we need to generate these animals randomly and that too at random locations. So in this lesson we'll be doing that. We'll make it happen whenever we press a particular key S. So and later in the next lesson we'll be making it autonomous. So let's just to do that we need reference to all these three animals, right? Till now what see we have done our food instantiation, like our food prefab instantiation in our player controller. Here to instantiate this food we need our food prefab reference, right? In the same way, to generate our dog, fox, horse randomly in our uh, say we have generated our horse here and made it move like this. So I'll just show you that. Let me go to my play mode and see if I'm going a bit forward and if I'm dragging my sorry. Let me just go a bit forward. Yes, if I dragging my fox like this and placing it like this, it's see, I'm able to see that in my game, right? So if I'm leaving outside somewhere far away, it seems like it's coming through the screen. I can leave whatever I want. So we need to do that with our code, and that too randomly with random game objects. So to make this happen, we'll be using something called an array. So instead of referring these three game objects with three different variables, we'll be using a single uh, programming construct called array, which is also a data structure. And this time we need an array of game objects. We'll be storing all these three game objects in an array, and we'll use that single array to access different uh, game objects based on our need. So let's just declare an array first and see how it can be used. So let me create an array, and this array data type should be, sorry, the object type should be a game object, and as it is an array, we'll we'll just let the compiler know that it is an array by using these square brackets beside that. And now we need to name this. Let me name this as animal prefabs. So this makes sense, right? This array of game objects holds all the animal prefabs. So let me say this and get back to Unity and see what happens. Here, when I click this spawn manager, in the inspector, see, I got this animal prefabs, and in this drop down, it's asking me for size. So all the arrays are associated with some size. Say the size is 5. We'll be having 5 elements, and they can be accessed using something called index. In array, we have this concept of zero indexing, where all the 5 elements will be mapped with certain number. Like if we have 5 elements, we can access them using the numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Whereas if we have 3 elements in our array, we'll be able to access those elements using the indexes 0, 1, and 2. So as the size is 3, if we give the size as 3c and press enter, immediately it's asking for 3 elements. Whereas if I give my size as say 10, see, it gave me an option to have 10 elements, and see, everywhere it's asking for a game object, and that's the data type we have. That's the object type which we have given here. So as it is a game object array, everything uh, everything in this array must be a game object. So coming back to Unity, I have 3 elements here. So I gave my size as 3, and let me assign them. So in the first thing, I'm dragging and placing my dog prefab, whereas in the second element, which is the element with index 1, see the tricky part is, for us it is 1, 2, 3, whereas for computer it is 0, 1, 2. We can call it as second element, or the element at first index, or we can call it call it as the third element, or the element at second index. So when we refer to indices, it will be 0 based. When we refer to elements, that will be our normal human convention, which is 1, 2, 3, so on. So uh, here we have initialized our array, and our array has the size 3 with these 3 elements, which are game objects, and these game objects can be referred using these indices 0, 1, and 2 respectively. So the 0 element will map to this dog 1. Sorry, the 0 index will map to this dog. The first index is fox, and the uh, second index is horse. So let me save this. Now we gave our references to each and every game object. Now our target is to spawn any of this game object when we press a particular key. So let me just write a piece of code to just detect if the key S is pressed. So we need an if statement for that, and in that my condition must check if S is pressed or not. So S pressing S is an input, right? So for that we need to use the input class which Unity has provided to us. So what we can use in our input class, we have done a similar kind of thing with space yesterday. We have checked if the space is pressed or not. Let's use the same method, get key down. So the get key down method will give us true whenever we press a particular key down, and we will tell what the particular key is using this key code enumerator. And this key code dot s is nothing but like this key code just this key code just maps the physical key on our keyboard to some value, and that value will be returned to our get key down function, and our get key code function will give us true whenever this particular s is pressed. So let's save this, and here we need to instantiate the game objects, like a particular game object. So let's just do it in a simple way. Let's instantiate the 0th index uh, game object. I'm writing just this thing, like I'm instantiating a game object, that's it. I'm not giving any particular position or rotation to that. Let me do it in this way. So let me just save this and get back to my Unity here. See, as I have given the 0 element, my dog must be the game object which will be which will get created every time. So if I see my dog, see its position is at x is 11, y is 0, and z is 14.1. So every time when I create a new game object, like using the s, I'll be getting a game object here. Let's just test that. So see, now the dog is gone, but when let me just press S now. See, my dog got created at the same position, and it has moved forward because of its move forward script present attached to that. So let me try that more times. See, every time the dog is getting created at the same particular position. It's just because that if we do not specify any position, it will take the position of the prefab itself. In the prefab, the position is this particular position, so it's it's getting created at that position. So I want it at my particular position, right? I don't want the dog to be created inside the screen. I want my dog to be created somewhere back, somewhere say somewhere around here, so that my dog it seems as if the dog is coming from outside the screen, like so let me give some what do we say, location and position and rotation to this. So I'll fix my rotation as of now. To fix my rotation, I need to create a new vector 3. This vector 3, I'll be giving some values, like I can have 0 in x direction, 0 same in y, and z is what z value is the one which matters. I'll be giving 20 as the value, which is a good number, so that the copy of this dog will be created outside the game view. So I need to give the rotation, right? Let me use the same dog prefab to get the rotation. So to do that, I'm using the animal prefabs array and accessing the same dog game object, and it will have some transform, right? I'll be accessing its transform, and in that I'm accessing its rotation. So I'm leaving the rotation same as it is for the particular what the dog have initially. I'm just changing the position of it. So let me save this and check what happens. See, when I press S now, see it's let me just show you in this way. See the scene view, it's just creating somewhere else, and in game view it seems like it's coming from outside. See, I think this is perfect as of now. So let me get back to my game mode, sorry, script here, and see here we have fixed our numbers as 0. Instead of this, let me just create a variable for the public int animal index. You may wonder why I have used the data type as int here. That's just because that array indices will be integers itself. So as we have 3 as our array size, the values it can, the index values it can take can be 0, 1 and 2. So when we have this animal index, these values 0, 1 and 2, we can change our object, right? So let me just use this animal index, sorry, animal index, yeah, that's good. And here also, so here note that I haven't initialized my animal index, I just declared it and I'm using this animal index here. So to prevent an error, let's go to our Unity and initialize in our inspector. So it will be having a default value of 0. So when I click on my spawn managers, see my animal index is 0, but we have already seen for 0. Let's see for 1 now. I'm saving this, and when I run this, in my index 1 I'm having fox. Now when I press S, I need to generate a fox game object here. Let me test that. I'm pressing S. See how successful it is. We got our fox. We got an entirely new game object just by changing the variable value from 0 to 1. So let me, so this is the case, and now let me edit this to 2 and see what happens. See, now the horse comes. This is just the magic that happened because we have an array. We are able to, we gave, what do we say? We gave this reference to all our game objects to this array, and using this array, I'm able to generate them however I wanted. And let me give some value other than 1 to 3. Let me give 3. And see, whenever I press my S, there comes an error here. And let me show this. Let me get back to my normal mode. See here it says index out of range exception. So by this we'll just know that it just tells me that hey, we have only 3 elements in our array which can be accessed by using the index values 0, 1 and 2, but why are you using some other value other than 0, 1 and 2? So the compiler got confused and just thrown an exception onto us saying that the index is out of range. So we need to, by this we know that whenever our size is 3, we can give only the values 0, 1 and 2. So that is the case. Let me clear this. And so here by initializing this value, we are able to change the game objects, right? What if we have the ability to select a random value to this animal index and use that random value to generate random game objects? So let's do that. Here, this animal index is a global variable. By global variable, I mean that it can be accessed anywhere in these methods. So let me show you an example. I already used this animal index here. I can do the same thing here also. I can just write animal index as 5 and I can do any operation on that. I can say like animal index equal to animal index minus 3. So there is no error here. But as soon as I remove this here, say let me remove this, uh, and see I have my errors here. Every error tells me the same thing. The name animal index does not exist in this context, current context, which just says that, hey, you have told me to initialize this animal index or use this animal index somehow, but I don't know what animal index is. Let me just clear this. But let's use our animal index here. We can even declare our animal index in this particular block, and let me declare that as animal index, and see here the errors, and let me initialize that to some value. Now see, my errors in this particular block have gone. This is the difference between a global variable and a local variable. This animal index I have initialized here, right? Let me try to use this here. I don't even get that in my suggestion. And let me just write like this. See, it just says the same thing. The name animal index does not exist in the current context. So this index, which this animal index, which we have declared over here at this in this particular block, can only be accessible in this block only. So instead of initializing this with some value, now our goal is to initialize this particular what do we say, particular animal index with a random value. To do that, Unity has provided us with a random class, and using the period operator, we'll be getting the suggestions uh, of methods or properties which we can use. I'm interested in this random.range method, and there are two ways of implementing it. One thing is giving the float values to it, in which it will be giving a random float. But what we need is a random integer, not random float. Just because our animal index is a integer, so we need to generate integers here and see what it says. Return a random integer number between minimum, which is inclusive, and maximum, which is exclusive. This just means that if I give these values as 1 comma 4, then the random values that can be 1, 2, and 3. That's it. It can't take 4. The first value is inclusive, whereas the second value is exclusive. So this is the case with 1 and 4, but we don't want the values to be 1, 2, and 3. In our case, we need the values to be 0, 1, and 2, or 2. It will be generating one random value in each call, like in each call to this random dot range method. So let's give the values as 0 comma 3, and see, as we have 0 comma 3 here, the values can be 0, 1, and 2. So when we save this, and let's just go back to Unity, and this time see our animal index variable is not here. It's just because it has become a private variable automatically, because the default access specifier is a private, and it's a local variable too. So let me just run this and see, all the animals are gone. Now let me press S. Now we have a horse again. See, we have dogs now, a fox, 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 dog, horse. See, it's just unpredictable, right? Every time we press the S key, uh, it will be generating a random number, and using this random number to instantiate this prefab with this particular location, sorry, position, and this particular rotation. So that's the case here. And now instantiating random animals is not enough. We need to even instantiate them at random positions. So let's uh, see how we can change our position now. See here, we have fixed our position of our animal at z position of our animals at 30, 20, sorry. So whenever we have our that position of our animal at 20, they are not visible in our uh, game view. So we can just happily let's just fix that at 25 for a safer case. So if we fix that at 25 and we give a random value to this x, so that it will be generated in some random range. So as we are just able to create this some random uh, animals with random locations, right? If we just make this x as random. So let's try to do that. Let me get back to my code here. And this time we want our z to be 25, which is a fixed value, whereas our x is random dot range of let the range be minus 15 to 15. So this is the thing. See here, we have given the position, like first whenever we press S, a random value will be generated which can be 0, 1 or 2, and that will be stored here. And this is animal index, right? And we'll be using this animal index to create a copy of that particular animal prefab, which can be accessed through animal prefabs array. And we are giving its position at a random position in x and fixed positions for y and z, where the y will be 0 and z will be 25. So we use 25 just because it is beyond the game view limits. Whereas coming to this rotation, we are picking the rotation of the same animal prefab itself, the same original rotation of this prefab. So let me just save this and get back to Unity here. So yeah, now all the original game objects are gone. Let me just try to spawn a new animal. See, now instead of coming from a particular position, now I have random animals and random locations too. So with this simple random dot range, we are able to generate random numbers and use those random numbers to uh, give the randomness to our game uh, in terms of generating random animals and generating them at random positions also. So let's just clean our code a bit now. So this single line is very overwhelming, right? So let me just cut this part and name it as spawn position. And let me create a new vector3 spawn position. See, this vector3 spawn position also will be a local variable itself. So let me save this, and everything is same. We didn't we just created a variable, that's it. There is no much difference. And see, we have this values here which are fixed. And I just forgot to mention one point here. See here, instead of random dot range so of this 0 3, say now we know that our array size is 3 and we have given random dot range of 0 comma 3 to generate 0 1 or 2 values so that we can use them as array index. But what if we don't know the what the size of our array could be? So in that case, we'll be using something called array.length. So here our array is animal prefabs, and when we use this length, property here, we'll be just getting length of this animal prefabs, and that is also obviously 3. So it's the same thing, but instead of having a hard coded value, it's always good to have the using the properties like this animal prefabs dot length can be used to generate indices. Like if I changed my mind and I want to generate 5 animals, and I have changed the size of animal array to be 5, whereas I left this random dot range to be 3. If I do that, I'll be able to generate 0, 1, 2 only. So I'll be able to generate only 3 animals. Instead, by using this animal prefabs dot length here, there in my inspector, if I change my value of size as 5 and assign 5 different animals to that, as I have animal prefabs dot length here, this automatically gives the value of 5, and I'll be generating uh, the values 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4 uh, in every instance. And coming here, this for this, which is 15 minus 15 and 15, we can create a private float as spawn spawn range x, spawn range, it's range, right? So let me, and it's in x direction, so let's initialize this with 15, and wherever we find 15, we can just replace that with this spawn range x. Yes, and the same thing here. So here we are generating a random number between negative spawn range x, which is minus 15, to positive spawn range x, which is plus 15. And here for z also, let's create a private float spawn position z. Now it's fixed, right? It's fixed in terms of the z-axis. So let me initialize this to 25 and use this particular variable here. So this is the thing. Let's just get back to Unity and test this. See, it's the same behavior. We just made our code a little bit cleaner, and our every functionality is just fine. So let's just unpause this. Sorry, let's just get back to our normal board and see. Now here we are with a new thing here. See, there is something here in our scene, and it says it's perspective, and there are 2 modes for it. One is perspective view and other is isometric view. So we'll we'll be able to see the difference when we see that in our top down view a bit. So let me focus on a particular animal, say that can be horse. So we have our horse here, and see, just see the difference. See, whenever we have this particular perspective view, we'll be able to see the 3D detail, whereas in isometric view, it looks a kind of flat. So this depends on the game you are making. It's completely your decision to use the perspective view or isometric view. Isometric view can be used whenever we need a 2D game with a flat view in it, rather than a view which have the 3D detailings of the game objects. And when we are changing this particular thing here, we don't notice any change in our game view. That is because that perspective, to change the perspective in our game view, here we have something called projection here, and this maps to that thing. So we have 2 options. Perspective is same as perspective, whereas orthographic refers to this uh, isometric view. So having the orthographic view makes the things more flatter, whereas in perspective view, the 3D details can be seen a bit. So let me leave that in the perspective mode. And with this, we have finished our first lesson, like the third lesson of this game. And we are left with this thing. Uh, Thinking of player, we can move the player however we wanted, and we are able to generate the food flight, whereas pressing S key generates random animals at random positions, and with they're also having a random uh, they're also having a random velocity, like defined velocity. Each one have their own velocity, right? So that's the thing for this lesson, and let me just tell you the recap of this lesson. Let's just recap this. Give me a second. So in this we has taken the we have learned array concept, and we have used the random values to generate random array indexes, and we have used same random dot range to use the get the random location for our generated random animals. We have used the spawn manager to successfully spawn our animals however we wanted. Next, we used the key code .s to get the input using the get keyed on method. We have seen the difference between local and global variables, where if we have one global variable that can be accessed in any method in that particular class, whereas a local variable can be accessed in that particular block itself. Next, coming the final thing is the difference between the perspective and isometric view, where the perspective view gives some 3D details, whereas the isometric view will be kind of a flat view. So moving forward to the next lesson, where we'll be making these animals to spawn randomly on their own for a time interval, and later uh, we'll be detecting the collisions, which is the main part of this game. Like uh, we want our we want to feed our animals, right? So here we need something, the some way to detect the collisions and do something when that to just mention that the animals got feeded. And let's just start that now. So here let's just once see again what we have now. So here we have our player able to do these things, and whenever we press S, we'll be able to spawn random animals. So uh, first, our first target is to create these random animals at random timing. So not random, at a particular timing. So let's just get started. Let's go to our spawn manager again. I can do it in this way also. I can just edit script, and in this and in this, let me take this particular block of code. This is the logic which I have to generate my random animals, right? So let me just give me a minute, guys. I need to put my mobile on silent mode. Okay. So let me just create a new method called void spawn random animal, and what I'll do here is I'll just copy paste, cut paste this part of code. See, until now we have overridden few methods like this. We have overridden start and update methods, and we have called few methods. Say example, this range. We have called this method. We have modified this or overridden this particular methods. But this is the first time we are creating a whole new method here. This is the uh, first time we are what do we say, creating a whole new method which is completely our own. So let's just say this, and let's just call this same method here, spawn random animal. So I just did nothing. I just took whatever there in this particular if statement, placed it here, and I just gave it some name. I said that it is a method, and I'm just calling that method now. So let me go back to Unity once, and the behavior must be same. Technically, I didn't change anything. I just took a block of code and used uh, that in a method. So as I'm pressing S, see the animals are getting created. So that's cool. It's the same thing, but we have mentioned that in a method. But as I said, we need this thing. We need this to happen on its own, not by pressing some key. Right? No player wants to just press some key to generate some game objects, right? To generate the animals, if the player only had to do that, what's the fun in it? The animals must come on their own, and the player will do something uh, to feed them. That's the duty of the player. That's how our game is designed. So let's just get rid of this, and to do that we'll be using something called invoke repeating. What does this invoke repeating do? Let me just explain that. And this needs three things. The first thing is the method name, and the method name will be this, the spawn random animal. Let me just copy this, and we need to give this in the form of a string. It's just a method, and it also needs two more parameters, and those both are float. The first parameter is time, and the second parameter is repeat rate. Let me give the first time as 2.0f, and the repeat rate can be something like 1.5f. So this just says that, hey, invoke repeating, what it does, I'm going to say now. Hey, just call this function for the first time when it is 2 seconds from the start of game. So I just clicked my play button now. From then on, a timer runs, and when it's exactly 2 seconds, this invoke repeating calls this spawn random animal method once. So it got created, like it got called for the first time. Then it's so nice. As it is invoke repeating, not just invoke, we have given us another parameter called repeat rate, and that is 1.5. And this 1.5 is the time for which it repeats. So say my time, I'm starting my play at 0 time. So when my time is 2 seconds, I'll be calling the Unity will be calling this function once, and when the time is 3.5 seconds, again this will be called. Again when the time is 5 seconds, this will be called. Again when the time is 6.5 seconds, this will be called. So For the first time it will be called when the time is 2. Later on, whenever the repeat, as we have given repeat rate as 1.5, for every 1.5 seconds from the 2, this method will be called. Let's just test it out and see how cool that would be. Sorry. Yeah. Now let these all animals go. See, those animals are getting generated on their own, right? So we have successfully uh, gen- we are successfully generating our random animals with random locations with a given time frame. So for every 1 seconds from now, there will be a new animal will be generated, and as they have different velocities, it's so cool, right? So this is the thing. Hello, guys. If you have any issues, you can just send me in the chat, or you can switch on your mic and speak. So that's the thing with this. We successfully, what do we say, generated our random animals as we wanted, and now comes the most interesting part of this game, the collisions. So to detect collisions or have collisions, we need collider on all the game objects which must collide. So let us do that first. So let me go to, instead of working with this game objects, I don't even need this now. Let me just delete these animals and I'll be generating them, right? Why do I need them now? Let me just uh, okay, save this and see the animals will be generated on their own, and this, what do we say, our food will be generated on our own, like whenever we press space. So all that is left is to do something when they both collide. So let me just go back and do that. So coming to my dog, and when we double click this dog here, we'll be entering a mode called prefab preview mode. And see, we have something called auto save here, which saves everything automatically. And as I said, to detect collision, we need something called collider. For that, let's add box collider. Search for box here and you will find box collider and box collider 2D. As our game is top down view 3D, but our models are 3D, right? So let's use our box collider here and see, it's such a big collider. Let's just adjust that using our edit collider, or we can even use our values here as size x, y and z, but I'm interested in using this edit collider. Let me use this axis to clearly define them. Okay. And this side. And when I focus that, see, I can even reduce that a bit. Make colliders as closer as possible so that the outcome will be best. So this is the thing with dog. Let me just say that and see in different ways. Yeah, this is cool. Okay. Yeah, this is fine, I guess. So when I go back here, see, our prefab have this, and when I drag this thing here, uh, that also will be having a box collider. Cool, right? And next, let's do the same thing for our fox also. I entered the prefab preview mode by double clicking that. And now let me add the box collider, and see here also it's bigger. Now what I'll do is I'll do the same thing as I did earlier. Here. So this is the way we'll be adjusting our collider. So I guess this would be fine. Let me just check that. Okay. I can decrease this a bit also. Yeah, I guess this is fine now. Okay, let's just get back to our normal mode and see our Fox uh, our Fox prefab have this box collider, and when I click that here, uh, we have the same thing back. Yes, why we need to use the collider? As we said, see our game as of now do not detect any collisions, right? We need to feed these animals. So we had our food prefab, and we had these animals prefab. Uh, we are we are generating our animals from the other side, whereas we are generating this food from the player side. So when they collide, when they touch each other, we need to do something, right? So that our so that our will give the feedback to players some way that the animal has been feeded, feeded. So we need these colliders on each and every game object, like each and every animal, and even to our food variable also, food prefab also, so that we'll be able to detect collisions. I guess I'm clear with that. Please send me another message if you have understood. We'll see that now. Hello. I think. Yeah. Thank you. So let me do the same thing for Fox. I have double clicked this and entered the prefab preview mode, and let me add this collider for this also, and see this time this collider is too small. Let me increase its size by saying 10, sorry, 15, 15, 15, and later I can adjust that. And see, it's too small. Let me just place that. I guess that will be fine. Yeah, I think this is okay for this. Yeah, let me get back to my normal mode and see my horse will have this box collider, and when we create a new horse, that too will come with this particular box collider on it. So we are cool. Now let's just do the same thing for our food also. Sorry. Yeah, food. See here, this is our food in our prefab preview mode. Let me add the same box collider to it, and see it's perfectly fit. I need not edit this now. It's okay to be like that. So let me say save this and get. Let me save this now. And see, whenever we have this food here, it's having this particular. Let me place that a bit upwards. Yeah. whenever we have this food here, we got it with this collider. So having this collider is not enough. See, everything is having this collider, but there is something called each trigger here. We need to check this each trigger here just to use on trigger enter method in our code. uh, these colliders, they'll detect collision, but for us to have a feedback that yes, the collision happened, we need to check this each trigger and say this is, and say this, and make sure that you override this and apply all. Like you made some change here, right? That in box collider you need to apply all to in the box collider so that it reflects in our prefab also. Same with our fox. Just click each trigger and override this, apply all. Coming to horse, check each trigger, click apply all. Coming to our food, do the same thing, each trigger, apply all. So having the colliders isn't the only thing enough for our collisions to happen. We need to have at least one rigid body also. So for our food food object, let's just create a rigid body component. Add, sorry, not create, it's add. Let's add our rigid body component, and here let's uncheck the gravity. So our food has to fly in air, right? If our food have gravity, it will fall down. So let's just try our game now. We just added colliders and have our rigid body now, but nothing seems happening, right? It's the same thing we have earlier. See, even if we try to hit anything, it's going past that. Nothing is really happening. But why is that? We have our collision detection, but what's happening is we are not doing anything on collision. So here comes the part where we actually do detect collision. So to do that, let's go to our scripts and write another script called detect collision. So this particular script is used to detect collision, and let me add the script to my food here. So let me select this, and let me drag drop this to this inspector of this food game object, and make sure that you'll just override. See, we have made some changes, and every time we make some change, we need to apply all so that it reflects to our prefabs also. See, now if we see in our prefabs, they have the same things, right? Now we need to always maintain our prefabs and our game objects in a similar manner. So to give that extra behavior, to we can just find when the collision happens and do something. Let's mm, do. Let's just first detect the collision now. So click edit script, and here we have already two methods which we have from our mono behavior. Now we are going to do a special thing. We are going to override an existing mono behavior method. So let's just find a method called on trigger enter. See, we have this, and immediately when I click on the enter, like on the suggestion given, I got all these things. It automatically made the access modifier of the on trigger method as private, so it can be accessible only in this particular class, which is our detect collision. And next, this on trigger enter is having a parameter called collider other. So let's see the use of it later. For now, as of now, as the collision took place, now let's destroy our game object on collision. So let's just save this and try. Let me just focus on the player and do this. So it's okay. Just save this and see now. Our food must delete whenever we hit it with any. See, whenever we hit our food with a game in animal, our food will get deleted automatically. If I have some, so let me, yeah, see this. Our food is getting deleted, right? So this is because we detect the collision got detected, and now we are deleting this particular game object whenever we have this collision happening. It's not just enough to decrease, sorry, delete our game object. We need to delete the animal also, right? To do that, we'll be using the other keyword. So we need to destroy other dot game object also. Here we are using our this script is attached to our food prefab here, and on food prefab we have this collider as trigger, right? And because of uh, each trigger has been checked there, we are able to successfully use this method here. And this trigger method tells us to which game object or to which thing our food has collided with. So coming to Unity, let's just uh, play this and test again. See, now we are able to delete our animals also. Sorry. See, I think you can see in our scene view. I think this is cool, and we can always adjust the values and make it uh, make them look better or feel better. So for this, let me just change few values. Yeah, let me decrease the speed of these animals. I'll make the speed of dog as 5, fox as something like 10, and horse as 12, 13. So let me save this, and I need to change the speed of my player also. See, I don't have my speed of my player. It will be present in my player controller. I'll be opening the script. And see, here I have it as 40. Let me make it 30. And let me get back and test this again. I'll hit maximize on play so that I'll have this full screen. Yes. I guess this is better now. I'm able to hit more animals than before. So I guess this is cool. And see here, now let's clean our code a bit. We are done with the functionality part, and now let's add the game over message and clean our code a bit. So when can we say our game is finished? We can find that in our destroy of the bonds. Here we have our animals going past our player, like they're going behind our player, which means that our player can no longer feed that particular animal. So here I can say the game is over. And to do that, I'll just use debug.log and I'll say game over. So so you might think like, so writing this debug.log, will the game really end? No. This debug.log is just a message to indicate that the game is over. You are not actually ending our game. We'll be doing this part in our future games. But right now, as of now, this we are not ending this game. We are just sending a message saying that the game is over, and this message will be displayed in our console. We can find the console by clicking Control plus Shift plus C, and see, we have three things here: messages, warnings, and errors. We are by doing debug.log, we will be sending a message. And let me just run this. See, we have already, so let me just pause this and see, we have four messages here like this. That means already four animals have gone behind my player. So this is the thing. We just used our debug.log message to just indicate that our game is done. And let me just delete this to so that it's a bit clean. My scene is a bit clean. And next, anyhow, they will be generated randomly, right? So let me just come back here and clean my code a bit. So I have here 1, 2, 3, 5 scripts here. And let me, yeah, I have all my 5 scripts. So let me go from one script to another and see if it's okay. Yeah, we need to have this speed variable as public because we are giving different speeds for different animals, right? And if this is not public, we'll be not having that opportunity to do that. And I have written a code here saying moving the game object forward with a particular speed, which best describes the next line there. And coming to player controller, see, I have all my variables private. I have fixed some values here, and I commented that it is private, and I have this food prefab uh, as public just because I have no option to initialize this food prefab from the script itself. I just need to make this public and rely on uh, the inspector to initialize that. So I have given some comments here. We are checking the left bound of our player, whereas here we are checking the right bound of our player and restricting them. And at this part, horizontal input equal to input dot get access horizontal. We are just uh, we are just taking our horizontal input, and the next part here transform dot translate. Here we are making the player move sidewards, which is just sliding about the x-axis. And next, uh, launching the foot projectile whenever space is pressed. So we are checking the input if space is pressed or not. And in instantiate, we are creating a new prefab of our new copy of our prefab. So in this way, we are generating the foot projectiles and coming to detect collision. See, let's write some comments here. Uh, Detecting collision and destroying the food and animal associated in collision. So with this, this script is also good to go. Next, let's see this. See here we have our private variables. Let me comment that as private variables. And here this array, we have no choice but use this as public, uh, because we use it to initialize the game objects. So this is private variables and public variables. And let's see what we are doing here. I can write a comment as a whole here. Here, what I'll do is I'll just comment this like just give me a second, guys. I can comment this like spawn random animal, right? Here, this method spawns random animals, random animals with random locations. So I think that's understandable. And here I can write it like repeat calling the method for every 1.5 seconds with the first call at 2.0 second. I guess this is also okay. So let me save this. And finally, the last script. Here we have our comments already. So animals. Okay, let me copy paste this. So here we have our private variables which define our top bound and lower bound. Here, what we doing is we are destroying food when it moves past the given top bound, whereas here we are destroying animal when it moves past the lower bound. And in this way, this is the game over also, which we are defining by using the debug.log. So my code is clean. And as usual, while developing itself, we had our project clean by creating different folders like that. So as we are done, so I just forgot to tell you a point. See, if we somehow mess with our code and we miss this alignment or something like that, say like this, we can't always uh, make it normal, right? So to do that, Visual Studio has provided a way to us. Go to edit in Visual Studio, and here in advanced, we have something called as format document. Just click that. See, we have everything in place, almost everything. So we can do minor changes to it. So this is the way uh, we'll reconfigure or reformat our C# document if it is not clean. So let me take the build of this and check this how it looks in the game. So let me go to build settings and make sure that this uh, scene is present here and check. If not, just click add open scene and the same happens. And let me click build and that asks me for builds. Make sure that you give a new build, a new empty folder for it. Let me create a folder. I'll name it as prototype 2 build 2. So see, this is an empty folder, right? I'll select this folder. So I guess the build is done, and see we have our folder open. Let me open that and let me click play. See, now I'm able to play this. Oh, so I guess this is okay. I'm missing many things, but it's okay. So this is the game, guys. So I guess with this we are done for the session today.